readers. Today I want to talk about a webtoon that I read fairly recently, and I'm still reading it, so yeah, I've read it fairly recently, and very much enjoyed, and it is Lore Olympus. And Lore Olympus is available to read. You can read the whole first season for free on Webtoons. The second season has started recently, and you can read part of that as well, and then keep up to date with the weeks. I'm a little bit behind on it. I don't know how far. And then also what's really strange, I sort of read more on the website, and it keeps telling me to get the app because I could read 3 other chapters, but I read it on my Kindle because of the size of it, and I can't get the Webtoons app on my Kindle for whatever reason. Thanks, Amazon. So I just keep waiting, and so I'm a little bit behind. But whatever, it's fine. I don't want to read on my phone. My phone's a good size, but I don't want to read on it. I like reading on my Kindle because it's a good size one, and I don't know, I just feel more like reading when I'm on my Kindle. That was the whole purpose of it. So anyway, you can read Lore Olympus right now. You can for sure finish season 1, but season 2 is currently going, and this is a series that I, funnily enough, discovered based on well, I was seeing advertisements for it. I'm sure that if you all are on social media of any kind, you have seen the Webtoon ads for Lore Olympus. They were everywhere, especially last summer. I think I could not scroll like Instagram without seeing a Lore Olympus Webtoon ad. But I discovered like the main plot of it. That again sounds weird because it's based on Greek mythology. But anyway, I really got into reading it, I'll put it like that, from a criticism video. There was a video out this past summer, like right after I think the first season of Lore Olympus wrapped, that was really criticizing it, and there was, I believe, a Korean web novel. I think it's based in Korea. I could be wrong. I haven't read that one, that they were also criticizing. So it was the 2 of them, and they were like the 2 most popular webtoon graphic novels that were being produced last year. It was like True Beauty or something like that. So I could be off about the creators, so do not quote me on that. But that one, again, I haven't read. I don't know anything on. But Lore Olympus, I was drawn to reading before the criticism video because it is inspired by Greek mythology. And so I was attracted to that because I love Greek myths. They're so messed up and messy. And I've always been drawn to stories that sort of pull that in. I just think it's fascinating and it's kind of fun. And this video was fairly negative about the series. And I don't like to believe other people's opinions. That sounds wrong. No, I listen to other people, but I like to form my own opinion. So I soon afterwards started reading the first season, and it took me a while to finish just because I would put it down so that I could read other stuff that I was currently reading. But right around Christmas time, I think because I was on holiday, I just decided to read through it. So I spent like a lot of time reading this. Like I literally could not stop. I was just going through chapter after chapter. And yeah, I get where the criticism is coming from, and I'll talk a little bit on it, but overall I don't really stand with the criticism. Like as much as I could understand their take on it, I don't necessarily agree with that, and I kind of like how the creator has developed the story, and I really enjoyed it. I'm actually sporting some Lore Olympus gear. T-shirt is available on Hot Topic. And yeah, I love the original story. It was 10 times more messed up than this one. And this is done in more of a modern romance way. It is a retelling of the story of what is known as the Rape of Persephone, but it's told as a more modern love story between Hades and Persephone instead of the old story. And in case you don't know the basic old story, just very rough summary, essentially Zeus told Hades that he could marry any one of his daughters, and out of all of them, Persephone, who was young and very beautiful, was the chosen one of Hades, and so Zeus and Hades arranged to kidnap Persephone and take her to the underworld. And I'm sure y'all have heard the rest of the myth, Demeter, who is in charge of the harvest and, crops and everything, and the they say the seasons, but back then it was a pretty happy, warm time. And when she became so depressed over Persephone being gone, it was like eternal winter and no crops would grow. And then there's a whole deal with the pomegranates, and then we get X number of spring when Persephone is back on Earth, spring and summer, and then when she has to go to the underworld, it's winter. Essentially just the seasons myth is what Persephone's tale is. And as you can imagine, that's a very twisted, messed up story. One, the whole relationship thing is a little messed up. I think that's still going to come into play in this story, just FYI. But I don't think they've reached it yet. They might have, like I said, I'm a couple chapters behind. I do think that's going to come into play. But just that whole more negative aspect of Hades stealing this young goddess away, and I don't know, it was much darker. And yeah, this doesn't do that. It takes a more romantic, modern spin. The big criticism that I took away from the other video really has to do with the balance of power between Hades and Persephone, because Hades is a far older god, like billions of years. I'm just kidding, it's not billions of years, but he's much presented as much older. He's, experienced and mature, whereas Persephone is very young. She's only like 19, and she's inexperienced. And on top of that, Persephone is kind of forced to become an intern for Hades. Not by Hades, by the way, but by Hera. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, I get it. You don't like the imbalance of power. I'm not even going to touch on the age thing because I think that's ridiculous. These are gods. You have stories in Greek mythology where the gods spring to life fully adult, and then like immediately after they're in relationships with people. So I'm not going to touch so much on that one. I do get the imbalance where Persephone is perceived as really young and naive, and people could think that she's being taken advantage of, but I don't view her being taken advantage of by Hades in this story. There are other people. I don't want to give that part of the story away if you have not read it. I think there are other people who take advantage of her for sure. People, gods. But I think that Hades really develops a friendship with Persephone. Yes, he's attracted to her and she's very attracted to him, but they don't immediately jump into some kind of relationship. They form a bond more friendship-based where they can talk to the other one about trouble that they're experiencing or feeling. And I don't know. So I can't side with that criticism because I'm kind of like, I don't think that's the way it's being presented. I don't think in any way he's taking advantage of her. I think it's just one of those situations where if you like someone and you're drawn to them, sometimes other things don't matter. I think it's more presented in that way. And let's face it, they are both adult gods, so it's their decision to do whatever they want. Seems like a strange argument. But I do find the story charming. It is essentially a love story. And there are some really dark things that happen, especially to Persephone, and getting to follow her story and see the way that, one, she was raised kind of under Demeter's thumb, and so she's always wanted to kind of break away from that and have her own experiences. But two, she may have hidden abilities that are kind of hidden from her herself, not like just from the rest of the world. I don't know, there's all these twists and turns. It's really her story and personal development that I find the journey so enjoyable. And, you know, on top of that, to have a love story is nice. Plus, you know, if we're talking about naivete and, you know, people's experiences affecting them, then you kind of got to go back with Hades' story and think that really he was, for lack of a better word, tortured really by his father when he was eaten to be locked away and inside him for a long time before the gods ended up overthrowing the Titans. So I don't know. I kind of almost see them on an even level, just because I think that Hades carries a lot of scars that keep him distant from other people, and that's really what Persephone's friendship does, is kind of draw him out to see better options for him, and that he's lovable, and that people don't all hate him or think that he's evil, because not only the darkness of his father, but also the fact that he oversees the underworld, which, you know, people don't want to die. So he's always kind of looked at in a negative light. But she helps him to see that he's not all darkness and bad. And so I don't know. I find it all charming. And really, they're an interesting couple, even if you go back to mythology, because the two of them, first of all, I don't think any Greek god is faithful. I'd have to go through the stories other than the ones that maintain their virginal aspect. I think most of them are kind of naughty and do things on the side of their spouses. And that is the case even with Hades and Persephone, like both of them. But they also get very jealous if the other one wants to step out or is communicating with somebody else. So I don't know. It's interesting to see the dynamics of this modern retelling, if you know some of the dynamics of the classic story. And if you don't, I mean, if you read this and you enjoy it, you might want to go back and read the inspiration for it. Read those original stories. You might be a little bit like, oh, these are much better characters now. I don't know. I love so much about what else is being added in it too, because there are other Greek myths that are coming into play. You will see like Eros' story, and getting to see like Ares with Aphrodite is very interesting. I'm wondering if Hephaestus will come into play at all eventually, because Hephaestus, if you do not know, is the husband of Aphrodite. Kind of as a punishment, but I don't know. That's a very interesting, messed up story too. I don't know. I'm enjoying this. I love seeing the things. I think it's hilarious that Zeus is still kind of a dirtbag. Even in this, you know, he thinks he's like all powerful and can pretty much get away with whatever he wants. He definitely sleeps around on Hera and kind of doesn't understand why people don't want that kind of relationship. Yeah, including Hades kind of gives him trouble for that. Poseidon, I think, is an interesting character that I almost wish we got a little bit more of, and maybe that'll come in future episodes. I'm not really sure. Yeah, I just feel like if you enjoy Greek mythology, you can get into lore Olympus, and I don't know. I think that it's also different because the artwork is kind of unique. It has beautiful coloring. I think the art is gorgeous. And it is more of its own unique style, and I really enjoy that. I don't like it when everything looks like exactly the same. There are other artists, I think, who have a similar style, but I think this also stands alone very well on its own. And it's part of what drew me in. Like when I saw the artwork, but then also like Greek gods, I was like, yeah, that looks like something I would enjoy reading. And I have enjoyed reading it, and I will enjoy reading it in the future. Yes. So I think it's interesting, like, what can get you into reading books or stories in general. I'm sure that the purpose of that other person's video was not to have people run out and read it. But in my case, that's kind of what I do. If I hear a lot of heavy criticism, I like to read it on my own and make my own judgment call. And I'll say again, while I can understand where some of the thoughts are coming from, and some things too, if it were real life and real people, might make us slightly more uncomfortable. I think that it's working in the overall narrative of this story. And I don't know, I look forward to seeing how it all plays out. I think that that will make or break the series in general if it continues on a path of kind of like sensitivity and really even warning. There are so many like sensitivity warnings and stuff that are brought up before like certain chapters in this, that I think every decision is made conscientiously. And I would say, like, don't let certain things overly affect you. I don't know. I guess if you are bothered by the possibility of a romantic relationship between an intern and the boss of the place, even if they didn't want to be intern and boss, and met before said internship, then just be warned about this relationship, because that happens. It's just a thing that happens. I think that was a trick on Hera's part because she wanted to like kind of force them closer together. And it wasn't a choice on either Hades or Persephone's part, but I don't want to rattle on about that. I think that you should discover this on your own, and if it sounds interesting to you, give it a read. If you start to read it and you feel uncomfortable or you don't like it in any way, then stop reading it for sure. But I think everything is done and decided upon very carefully with the story and the plot. Again, just for me, I don't let the whole age thing bother me for this because the Greek gods don't age the same way that a human would, or that would be my taking. I don't know. I could be wrong. Potential other relationships between them might be more bothersome, but I don't know. I can't control that part, and it existed before this story because it's part of the Greek myths, and that's an open conversation that we can all have about why that kind of thing was okay in the traditional stories. I'm not here to determine that. So anyway, if it sounds at all interesting to you, please check it out. It is available to read on Webtoon, and yeah, I found it good. There are actually some other stories on Webtoon that I want to try out. One is, looks like a graphic novel retelling of Crown of Feathers, which is a young adult fantasy series that I quite enjoyed. So I kind of want to see if that does match up and if it's any good. And maybe some other ones. I don't always get to read the, like web graphic novel format, but maybe I should read more. But there's so much I'm already reading. So if you want to try something different, Lore Olympus, available on Webtoon. That is it for this video. Until next time, bye.